Assalamu alaikum. I am Ibrahim Khalilullah. My ID 17315104474. I am from Daffodil International University. Today I will tell about Petri Net and its description. First, here is a definition about Petri Net. A Petri Net, also known as a place or transaction Petri Net, is one of several mathematical modeling languages for the description of distributed systems. It's a class of discrete event dynamic system, and it's and here the pattern is a directed bipartite graph that has two types of elements, place or transitions. I will tell about elements, place and transition in my next slides. And last, here is a history about Petri Net. Petri Net were invented in August 1939 by Carl and Petri at the age of 30 for purpose of describing chemical processes. And here is Petri Net basics. This model or circle said place, this arrow mark said arcs, this thing said transition, and this dot signs will tell token. So here is the transition. This means transition, and this arrow mark is arcs. This is token, and this circle will say place. And here is rules. First rules, firing will be happen and token will be out of place like this. So if this, then here is a transition. So if a transition will happen, then it will say fire. So if firing will happen and token will be out of place like this, so token will be out. So for this, here we see it's empty token, sorry, empty place. And second, this model said firing will be happen and token will be still in the same place. So in this sign, the token will be still because token will go here and then return. So this token will be still here. And the third one, firing will happen from transaction T1. The figure will be like this. So in this model, firing will be happen and token will be here. So we see that firing will happen and token will enter here. And this two model, no firing will happen. Here we see for transaction T1, no firing will be happen if there is no token in the first place. So here is no token, so no transaction will happen. And last, for transaction T1, no firing will happen and it is a dead state. So we see here it's a dead state and no firing will happen. As an example of Petri net problems, so we'll find x1, x2 and x3. So here place 1 have 2 tokens, p2 has 0 token, p3 means place 3 have 0 tokens, and place 4 has only 1 token. So this is the value. X0 state is its X0 state, and this is the place's token number. Like P1 has 2 token, P2 0, P3 is 0 token, and last P4 is 1 token. Then from this model, if firing will happen, then what will be transition for T1, T2 and T3. T1 means X1, T2 X2 and T3 is x3. And what will be value for x1, x2 and x3? We'll say this in my next slide. Here x0 start and then x1. x1 means T1. If T1 transaction will happen, then what will be? We see one token will go from here. We already know that if a transaction will happen, then every hour from every hours at least one token will go. So this token here and it will from here. That means P1 has two token, P2 will be 1, P3 will be 1. So if T1 transaction will happen, then P1 token number 1, P2 have 1 and P3 have 1 and P4 is still 1. So x1 values is 1, 1, 1 and 1. Then from x1 to x2, x2 means T2 transaction. If T2 transaction will happen, then what will be? If T2 transaction will happen, then P2 token will still, because we already know token will go here and then return. So P2 token is still, but P3's token will go to P4 because this transaction will happen. So P1 token number 1, P2 has 1, P3 0 and P4 will 2 token. So P4 2. So it's the x2 value is transaction 2 value. And then the last one x3, x2 to x3. So x3 means transaction 3. If transaction 3 will happen, then what will be? First, P1 will be in, P3 and P4. Here is no out, 3 in. So in this situation, every arcs needs at least one token. So there is no out. So every token will be here and it will vanish. So P1 is empty, P4 is empty and P3 is already empty. Sorry, P4 no empty because P4 has two token. So if one token will here, then P4 has one. So P1 had one token, so it will be vanish. P3 already vanish and P4 has one token will vanish. So the P1 norm is 0, P2 has one token, P3 has 0 token and P4 has 1 token. So x3 value is 0, P4 for P1, 1 for P2, 0 for P3 and P4 is 1. So if the x3 value means transaction 3 value. So here is the answer for x0, x1, x2 and x3. So it's the firing for Petri Net. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.